Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to share with you my Backstab stealth build for Thief. Unfortunately this build got nerfed in the last patch. It used to be Assassin Signet, used to be a 50% increase on your next attack, but now it is 15% increase on your next 5 attacks. But the build is still very viable, and I actually prefer it over Heartseeker builds. So let me get over the skills, the traits, everything, and then I'll show you some PvP clips. I'll really give you a good idea of how to do it. So let's go over the skills first. Alright, so for weapons I'm using double dagger, and then I'm using short bow. I use the short bow mostly for escapability that I get from the number 5, which is the Shadow Step, and then it has some good AoEs you can throw down on control points if you're happen to be at range and you don't want to go in just yet. For the daggers, number 1 is your auto attack, of course, double strike, wild strike, and lotus strike. You get some endurance with your wild strike, and then you inflict a poison with your lotus strike. You see up top is your backstab, and that's what we're focusing on for a lot of our damage. If you're in stealth and you're behind the target, then that's considered a backstab. You can also hit them in the front, but you see it's actually half of the damage from hitting them in the back. So the main focus of this build is stealing, stealthing, and backstabbing. For number 2 is the Heartseeker, so that's why sometimes in map chat you'll see people say 222 or like heart-seeking spamming noob, something like that. That's because this ability does a ton of damage, and the lower health you are at, the lower health your enemy's at, the more damage it actually does. The reason I think this skill is so OP is because of the leap that's with it. Look at the range, it's 450, so when you use this and your opponent's not, you're nowhere near your opponent, you just the leap is just so ridiculous. If they lowered the range of leap to say to like 200 or something like that, then I think the heart-seeking builds will, people won't complain about it as much. But it's the leap, I'm telling you, it's the leap that's killing it. Number 3 is Death Blossom. I really never use this skill on this build because it's kind of a waste of an initiative where I could use it for the Cloak and Dagger or the Heartseekers, which I use the Heartseekers when people are very low health, maybe 20%. I'll start spamming Heartseekers if I have the initiative. Number 4 is Dancing Dagger. That's for, it actually hits up to 4 targets. It kind of bounces between them, and it's basic cripple. Number 5 is an important skill. It's the Cloak and Dagger. When you attack an opponent, you do damage. It's pretty high damage, and you go into stealth, which will allow you to use another backstab. So this is probably your main priority for your dagger skills, is making sure you get back in stealth with your Cloak and Dagger so you can do more backstabs for damage. For my healing spell, I'm using Hide in Shadows. It gives me a stealth, it gives me regen, cures burning, poison, bleeding, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, this build you want to stealth and backstab. So anything that gives you stealth is, something you really want. So it's the best heal for this build for sure. I use Signet of Shadows for my first utility. The Signet that everyone used to use was the Assassin Signet, but unfortunately it got nerfed, so I used to run with it still, but I really think Signet of Shadows, the passive, is so powerful, especially for a backstab build when you have to run around people and you have to constantly be behind somebody. It really gives you that extra speed boost that you need to, you have 3-4 seconds of stealth and you have to get behind someone fast to backstab them. You can't just be running around. So 25% increased movement speed. I love this Signet. For my second utility, I am using Blinding Powder. I don't really care about the blinds. The blind is nice, of course, but I get this mostly just to stealth again. And then for my third utility, I have Shadow Step. And this one's nice because it's instant. The Shadow Step in the short bow, you have to kind of wait for the arrow to fire. This one's instant, and it breaks stun. So this is your stun breaker. And then the Shadow Return is really nice because you could run away, and if people are chasing you, you could use your Shadow Return. and go back to where you first used it. So you can really run around and confuse people with that. For the elite, I know a lot of people use the Thieves Guild. I used to as well, but for some reason I'm really loving the Basilisk Venom. Your next attack turns your opponent to stone for 1.5 seconds, so they're immobilized, stunned, whatever, they can't do anything. So for that 1.5 seconds, you have complete control over that person. I mean, it's not a long time, but there's so many uses for it. You can Cloak and Dagger and get another backstab in while they can't do anything. Or if you think they're trying to heal, you know, there's so many things to use this for. So for the traits, I picked 10 in Deadly Arts, 30 in Critical Strikes, 20 in Shadow Arts, and 10 in Trickery. I won't read out the minor traits, you can kind of go back and look at that yourself, but there are some pretty good ones. I'll just look at the major traits. In Deadly Arts, I picked number 3, which is Mug. Deal damage when stealing, and it actually does a lot of damage. You could get up to 4,000, maybe even more, depending on the defense of the opponent, but it actually does a lot of damage. And you get Critical Strikes, the first tier. I got Sight Strike, 7% chance to crit when hitting from behind or the side. The second tier is Critical Haste, 10% chance to get quickness on a critical hit. Since we have a huge amount of crit, it's like 52% without any buffs on. Then, you know, you get quickness and then you spam 3 Heartseekers, and that's like 8,000 damage right there. Third trait is Executioner. You can either pick Executioner or Hidden Killer. I picked the Executioner, which is extra 20% damage when target is below 50% health. Some people pick the 100%. It's like a guaranteed critical backstab, basically. But with my build, by the time I steal, which puts me in stealth and I get ready for a backstab, I have like 80% crit, so I'd much rather take the 20% damage on all of my skills to somebody than just a guaranteed crit on my backstab. So that's my opinion. Maybe yours differs, but I really like the Executioner much better. In Shadow Arts, I picked number 1, Master of Deception. Deception skills recharge 20% faster because I have Shadow Step and Blinding Powder, which are both Deception. And then I chose number 8 for the second tier, Hidden Thief. Stealing grants you 2 seconds of stealth, and that's kind of like a major thing in the build. So I'll steal from an opponent right off the bat. It Shadow Steps me over there, I go into stealth, and then I could backstab, Cloak and Dagger backstab, something like that. And it's huge burst right away. And then Trickery, I picked the 5th trait, which is Thrill of the Crime. When you steal, you and all nearby allies gain Fury, Might, and Swiftness for 10 seconds. So Steal also gives me stealth and gives me Fury, Might, and Swiftness. So I Shadow Step over to the opponent when I use Steal. I gain Fury, Might, Swiftness, and a minor trait puts poison on them, and I mean, it's just massive damage, massive burst damage. So the basic idea around this build is to steal, to go into stealth, to backstab. Alright, so let's look at the runes and the sigils I chose for this build. For the runes, I'm using Runes of Divinity for the 12% extra crit damage. I mean, to me, I just want to stack crit damage, so when I backstab somebody, I could backstab them for, you know, as much as possible. And it also gives the nice plus 60 to all stats. For the sigils on my daggers, I'm using 1 Superior Air, which is 30% chance on critical, cause a lightning strike, which is around 2,000 damage. It really depends. Cooldown 5 seconds, so that's an extra couple thousand damage every 5 seconds. And since we're critting all the time, it's going to proc for sure, don't worry about it. And 30% chance at crit to inflict chill. Some people might pick the fire AoE, but for me, I wanted to pick chill because I wanted to save the initiative from Dancing Dagger, the one that cripples, so I don't have to use that if I can inflict chill on somebody with my sigil. So I can save the initiative for that for a Cloak and Dagger or Heartseekers, so I don't have to use the Dancing Daggers. On the short bow, I'm using the sigil of superior energy, so when I switch to it, I gain 50% of my endurance. So that's why I use the short bow for escapability. So I'll switch to it, and then I'll have high endurance, and then I'll have all my stealths that I could use, shadow stepping, things like that. For my amulet, I'm using Berserker's Amulet. This is pure glass cannon build. If you are having trouble, I mean, this build is so squishy. So if you're really having trouble adapting to it, pick up the Knights build. You're not going to do as much damage, but just pick up the Knights Amulet and practice with the build with that until you get kind of comfortable using the stealths and the shadow steps and the backstabs, all of that stuff. Once you get comfortable with the mechanics of it, then you can start working in the Berserker's Amulet, and it's definitely worth it. The damage is so much better with the Berserker's Amulet. You just really have to be careful. You have to use your stealths properly. You have to shadow step properly, and you really just have to play the class pretty flawlessly. You could do so much damage, but your mechanics have to be solid. Alright guys, let me play a few games, and I'll get a few clips together. Maybe I'll just play a game or two. I'll get a few clips together and put it in here. Please make sure you comment, like, subscribe. Tell me if you have an opinion about the build, if you would change something, and if you have another interesting build, definitely share it with me. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Captured the mansion. Enemy captured the windmill. Artillery fire! Can't breathe. Enemy captured the clock tower.